When I saw myself bald, I'll tell you what, I remember looking in the mirror right when I was bald, and I didn't hear anything around me. I just went, now I see it. Yeah, because I gotta watch every episode now. I don't need to see the intro. Which farts fit the story? Warriors come out to play. Here's Johnny. Well, thanks to Hulu and now Netflix for South America, Mexico, some parts of Europe, but there's like this new audience, and I think that it's such a great show not only for individuals but for family. Like, it's a good family show at times. It can get a little dark, especially when Lex is doing what Lex does. I'm amazed. I go to these conventions, and the people that are there, that it affected their lives, they tell me stories about watching with their dad when their dad was alive, or, vets from the Gulf War, watching the DVDs. And you never know how much something really affects people until you start talking to people. And, it's amazing. I think, and doing the Rewatch podcast, Tom and I are doing Talkville, the Smallville Rewatch podcast. And I gotta tell you, it's like I'd never really seen the show, and now I'm watching every episode, and I've really been able to appreciate it and just kind of step back and watch it and laugh at myself at times, and then also go, hey, you did a pretty good job. So it's nice to see that people are still listening, and it's our 25th anniversary. We're going to do a cruise on Cruiseville. It's called Cruiseville, so Smallville fans, there's already hundreds of people going, and it's with a lot of the cast. And then we're doing a Nashville reunion in November for the 25th anniversary. So it's just, knock on wood, pinch myself, all that stuff. Yeah, it was such a success last year that this year it's even bigger success. So I think it's going to be a lot of fun. Like, people could go swimming with pigs with me. They can go swimming with reef sharks with me and Tom. Swimming with stingrays with me and Tom. I'm throwing a pajama karaoke party on the cruise. So we're doing a Smallville Nights evening. So, what's great too is the fact that Tom's on board now. Tom Welling, we've become really close, and he finally listened to me and said, "All right, I'll do conventions. All right, I'll do the Talkville, the Rewatch podcast." And he's more open now because he sees what an effect it has on people and the show, and it's just Smallville is the gift that keeps on giving. We just always goofed on each other. We were always, some days were hard, and when he was in a bad mood or something, and I got on set and I was kind of pissed off about something, he would love it because it would take it off him, and he'd be like, "Oh my God!" And we just got a kick out of each other. And when we were doing our scenes, there's some times where we'll be going, and then I'll look at him afterwards, and I'm like, "Do it again. More intensity, more intensity." And they'll do it and go, "Yeah, yeah." And he would do the same with me, and we would really help each other out to get to those places. And we just had a great time. We laughed constantly on that set. And now we're able to reminisce about it, and, it's like we miss it. We miss the camaraderie and the family-like atmosphere, because the crews and the other actors, you spend more time with them in 7 years than you have with your family ever. So it's pretty crazy when you think about it. I honestly thought, because I was with the other actors were so beautiful, like Tom and Kristen and Eric Johnson and Allison. They were all really good-looking people, and I've never had a lot of self-esteem with my looks. And so I thought, when I shave my head, they're not going to want this weirdo. I got a bump on the back of my head, and I always thought I was going to get fired because I just wasn't good looking enough. And I always say that, what's more important is your chops. Like, I studied acting, I bring everything to a character, so I knew that was the only way I was going to stick around, is if I was just really good. Just be the best you can be. And so that's what I went on. And so they didn't fire me. But it was when I saw myself bald, I'll tell you what, I remember looking in the mirror right when I was bald, and I didn't hear anything around me. I just went, now I see it. You're this guy, dude. You're this guy. You could do this. It was in my own head. I never really mentioned that before, but I do remember that, thinking, okay, this helps. This helps me feel like more of this guy. It clicks. It's like, me with hair and my t-shirts and just joking around. But when you put a suit on and the dress shoes, shaved head, something just changes in you. Now you're becoming this part, and all those things are so important. Makeup and hair or lack of hair, wardrobe, all these things help you build a character. And I started like early on. I was like reading, about Alexander the Great and all these like conquerors and this and that. And after a while, I was like, all right, you don't need to live this. You could just say you could just pretend you are acting. So yeah, the extraordinary pilot, David Nutter directing that pilot with the meteor shower, and the story like just takes off. And the show is it's just a really good show. It was really well made, especially for its time, for 2001, 2002. TV wasn't like that. We started that whole little movie every week. It felt like, and look what it started. Before us, there wasn't any superhero shows that were like that. But after us came Arrow and Flash and Supergirl and Lois. All those shows came on after us, but it was us who sort of were the reason those shows even went on the air. Yeah, because I got to watch every episode now. I don't need to see the intro. I respect the song. It's a great song, but after you hear a song, even songs you love, you listen to them over and over for a week, and then you're like, all right, I'm done. So that song's been around for 25 years, and it's when I hear it, I'm like. There was a funny moment where I was in Mexico and I was doing a autograph signing, and I went out one night and there were these booths and people selling things, and I noticed that song was playing. So I got my camera out. If you go to my Instagram at the Michael Rosenbaum, I went in and I go, "What's that song?" And they're like, "Oh, this." And then I go, "Oh, cool." And then the guy turns his phone around and he's watching Smallville. And I'm like, I'm on that show. So if you go to my Instagram, it's so funny. He just happened to be playing it. He didn't believe me. He didn't believe that it was me. Nicholas is such a great actor, and he's so personable and charismatic, and he takes his craft seriously. And I didn't think he'd have any issues with playing this part. I knew he would kill it. And I just told him, he asked me, advice, and I just said, dig deep, trust your gut, take chances, make it your own. And he had James Gunn behind him, giving him direction. So I was never worried. But I think people really liked his performance, and I think he's great. Yeah, I love Nicholas. I respect anyone who has a vision and goes with it and doesn't stop or doesn't compromise their vision. And I think James knows what he wants to do, and he's got a lot of brilliant people around him, and it's not all about what he wants. It's like, this is what I want. How do you make my vision come to fruition? How do you make it real? How do you make it? How do we put that on the big screen? And so, if you surround people with, surround yourself with talented people, and you utilize that, you use them to help. That's when you are at your best. And I think directors that don't listen to the people around him who know what they're doing, then they're only hurting themselves and the movie. And I think he's like, he knows what he wants, and he gets it, but he also hires great people around him as well. I agree. I think trust is a huge thing. If you're an actor, if you trust the director, if the crew trusts you, then everyone's along for the ride. And again, he has a vision, and he has such a DC Marvel vocabulary that runs deep, that he's able to bring a lot of things to life that many people wouldn't look at or bring those ideas to the big screen, and he does. So, and I saw some early stuff of Supergirl that he showed me, and I honestly thought it was awesome. So I can't wait for people to see it. I can't wait to see it. Yeah, special effects, they were pretty, in the beginning, they were like, people were like blown away by the effects. They were really amazing. But as you go on, there's some effects that don't work quite well because technology has taken off in so many directions. But for the most part, the show pretty much holds up. There's some moments in an episode or two here and there that you're like, oh, but you let it go because you know that it was 2000, the early 2000s, So it's like anything. I'm sure the effects now in 25 years, people will go, oh, they're way better now. It's just how things evolve. If you're watching superhero stuff and whether it's DC or Marvel or cartoons or anime. So it's just, if that's your world, then you love nostalgia. The music, the effects, everything sort of is uniform. What makes a great show is that you could watch it 20 years later, 25 years later, and still enjoy it. You know, a lot of shows you're like, I can't even watch that now. It doesn't hold up. It's called The Talented Farter. I had this idea for a book, and I was like, I want to use my own farts. I want it to be a story about a kid who doesn't know what his talent is, but he has this talent to make his farts sound like things that you hear every day, like the empty sound of a ketchup bottle being squeezed, or fireworks, or whatever. And so my friend and I, John Heater, I would sometimes send him a fart, and he goes, that sounds like a propeller on a plane giving out and like a plane crashing. And I'm like, oh my God. And then I thought this idea, what if this book is around all these sounds and these images, and it's a success. And it's, I wanted to make something that's not only fun for kids, but for families, and a good gift. It's on Amazon. It's called The Talented Farter. I think you'll love it. It's a hard book. It's really a beautiful book, and I'm really proud of it. Which farts fit the story? That's what it's about. It's like, this fart, we can go from this to this to this. And so there's like 20, 30 different farting sounds, but you're like, you know what, these farts, let's bring them right here and this. So, and then I wanted the fart it not to be like another fart book where the farts aren't very loud or they're generic. These are real, they're longer, they're louder. And it's a fun book, so I hope people continue to find it. I always wanted to get Keanu, and one of the reasons was I worked with him, and I thought he was such a special guy and such a cool guy, a great actor. I know people give him shit for, some things. He's not the most diverse, but like he knows who he is. He knows his world, and he plays those parts with such charisma, and I think he's just a legend, inside out. Very seldom do you find somebody that you look up to, not only as an actor, but as a human being. And he touches a lot of people's hearts, and he's very thoughtful. He's empathetic. He's just a great person, and that's rare, especially in the Hollywood, in Hollywood. So it's all about when the cameras aren't rolling, who you really are. And I think Keanu is altruistic as much as you can be, and I think he's got a heart of gold. And I wanted him on the podcast, and I got him, and he was everything I'd want him to be. He was like, I go, what do you do when you get anxiety? Well, Michael, I like to sit with my thoughts, close my eyes and just let everything come and go. And that's, and just like hearing him, I'm like, you're awesome. You're awesome. So I've had a lot of luck to interview great people like William H. Macy and J.K. Simmons and Keanu, and it's just hearing their stories and letting people know that actors are also human beings, and that they struggle, and we're just like you, and we really are. It's just like, yeah, we had success, yeah, we did a movie or we're on a TV show, but we go through life too, and people die in our life, and people are, we face adversity, and we get sick, and we get anxious, and we get depressed. And I wanted to make it a platform to open people's eyes to understand that celebrities are just like us. They're just, we're all in this together. They'll do a couple years on a series, and they'll make a little money, but then after living and taxes and agent, put it this way, if you make $100,000, immediately $50,000's gone. Because of taxes, agent, lawyer, manager, or business manager, and then at the end, then it's like, then you have to live. So then you take out another $30,000 to live for the year and pay your mortgage. Now you might have saved $5,000 from that. So and then when the series is over, if it ends prematurely, you're kind of like, all right, I have this amount of money left, and hopefully I'll get another job. I don't know who's going to hire me. I don't know. So you never, unless you're a huge movie star that makes $20 million a movie, or, you're always having to look at, having to look for your next job and to make ends meet. Most actors are unemployed. Most actors make less than $20,000 a year. There's very few that do really well and continue to do well. So it can be very difficult, but it's also very rewarding, and I'm super grateful that I've had a career where I've been able to make a living and help my mom out or help my friends out or give to charity and be smart and try to just have enough to keep going. The challenge is a lot of people, most people really appreciated the fact that I wasn't giving her a platform. Rather, what I was trying to do was say, this person that I knew for a long time and worked with them, I want to know what happened and how it happened and, how it can be prevented from happening again. And it was a risk, but I felt like I'm just going to talk to her like a human being and say, what went wrong? And, I thought it was a really good episode too. I was really proud of it. And a lot of people in the industry came to me and, they're like, dude, like Al Goff, creator of Smallville. He's like, I loved the interview. You did such a great job. And I wasn't trying to give her a platform to be like, this and that. And I was like saying, hey, what you did was wrong. You acknowledge that, and how she got there and what she's going to do to make it right, if that's possible. So, that's what I was trying to do, and so I appreciate that you watched it. It was probably the biggest episode I've ever done. I think over 1 million people have listened, and the podcast is Inside of You with Michael Rosenbaum, by the way, everybody. If you want to listen and subscribe, I'd appreciate it. And we have what we call patrons, and the patrons, you could join different tiers and support the podcast in different ways, get packages from me, and get your name shouted out, be on the show. So you join Patreon, patreon.com/Inside of You. But without my patrons, I couldn't do it. They're so supportive. From The Warriors is an old movie about a gang, The Warriors, and David Patrick Kelly has this Warriors come out to play, and he's got these 3 Coke bottles, and he's clinking them together, and he improvised it, and that's such an amazing, iconic moment. Other moments are, what would I say, the most iconic? I mean, look, Breaking Bad, you could find so many iconic moments. I'm a big horror movie fan, so movies like The Exorcist Part 3, which nobody really knows about, has some of the scariest scenes ever, and it's a movie that people should see. And I mean, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, when he takes them in the kitchen and the big silver door smashes closed, you're like, oh my gosh, what are we in for here? The Shining with the axe, with his face through the door. Here's Johnny! Stuff like that. Very memorable. I love movies. I love TV, so I look for shows that have something to offer where you're either scared or it's compelling or it's really funny. That's what I'm about. One Battle After Another was great. I loved that movie. I thought Leonardo DiCaprio was amazing. I really liked Begonia. I thought the ending was really cool. That movie kind of had me. Last year, I'm trying to think of this year, other movies. The directors who directed Talk to Her, I had them on the podcast. Talk to Me, sorry. That movie, it was so different and scary, and those guys ended up doing another movie, which I recently saw, Bring Her Back. I mean, it's iconic. Yes, Trunks. Ooh, top 5 villains. Lex Luthor, Joker, Brainiac, Darkseid, Sinestro. I don't know if any are overrated. There's some that get shit on. I didn't like that movie. Was it Superman and Batman? I won't say what is overrated or underrated, but what I will say is stop using too much CGI. Mm-hmm. Practicals are the way to go. I want to feel like I can touch something. I don't want to feel like everything is CGI. I can't relate. I can't do it. I remember reading for Band of Brothers, testing and reading with Tom Hanks, and that would have been really cool to do. I wish I could have done that. What's another movie that I wish I would have gotten? Good Will Hunting. I think I read for that, and that would have been a great movie to be a part of. Is Casey Affleck in Good Will Hunting? Smaller role, but I remember reading for it, and that movie became so big that I was like, man, that would have been cool. I auditioned for Star-Lord in Guardians of the Galaxy. I've had so many great guests. I mean, William H. Macy was great. Alan Richardson opened up so much about being bipolar, and that was groundbreaking. He really helped so many people out that suffer with mental illness, and all my guests are great in many different ways. Having Tom Welling, my cohort from Smallville, on there has always been fun. Recently having Fred Armisen on was great. So many great. Bob Odenkirk's a great guest. You know, I love him. And I think, and now guests, my wants, my needs. Who do I want to have on the podcast? Gary Oldman and Adam Sandler. And also this guy, Bill Camp. What a great actor, Bill Camp. Look him up. He's been in everything, but Bill Camp. I love doing the podcast. Like, I got so many great ones coming up. Vincent D'Onofrio, Dolph Lundgren, Bob Odenkirk's coming back, Kristen Ritter, Huey Lewis, Gene Simmons, Jonathan Frakes from Star Trek, Nick Frost is coming back. So a lot of great ones. You know, I started smelling but I was smelling my dog's breath, and I was like, man, we got to come up with something like puppy fresh. Like, it smells like a puppy, or this, like something. And so I came up with Rosie's Puppy Fresh Breath. It's a picture of me and my dogs on the cover. It's just a cap full in your dog's water. It's odorless and tasteless, so your dog doesn't know the difference, and your dog's breath gets better and better. So Rosie's Puppy Fresh Breath on Amazon.